Emma Carter stared at her reflection in the bathroom mirror, taking a steadying breath. The restaurant was one of the most expensive in the city, the kind of place where a single appetizer cost more than most people's weekly groceries. Through the door, she could hear the murmur of conversation, her fiancé Derek's voice among them. At 28, Emma had worked hard to get where she was, VP of Technology at a major software company, salary of $37,000 a month, stock options that had made her quietly wealthy. She'd built her career from nothing, starting as a junior developer and climbing through pure skill and determination. But Derek didn't know that. They'd met 6 months ago at a coffee shop, not a networking event or corporate function. He'd assumed from her simple clothing and modest car that she was struggling financially. She'd been between projects, taking a Sabbath to recover from burnout, living simply because she was tired of the corporate performance. Derek was a real estate agent, successful by normal standards but not wealthy. He made good money, owned a nice condo, drove a decent car. He'd been kind to her from the start, or so she'd thought, insisted on paying for dates, talked about taking care of her, made comments about helping her get on her feet. Emma had let him believe what he wanted to believe. She was curious to see who he was when he thought he had the power, the money, the control. Her last relationship had ended when her ex started treating her like an accessory to his success once he learned about her position. She wanted something real this time. But tonight was the test she'd been dreading. Dinner with Derek's parents. Wealthy, according to Derek. Old money, judgmental, particular about who their son dated. Derek had warned her they might be a bit much, but assured her that if she just acted natural, everything would be fine. Emma had chosen her outfit carefully. A simple dress from a department store, bought specifically for this dinner. No designer labels, no expensive jewelry, except for the modest engagement ring Derek had given her. She'd even driven her old Honda Civic, instead of the Tesla that sat in her private garage. She wanted to see how they'd treat someone they perceived as beneath them. And more importantly, she wanted to see how Derek would react. Taking one more breath, Emma left the bathroom and walked to the private dining room where Derek waited with his parents. Richard and Patricia Ashford sat at the head of the table like royalty holding court. Richard wore a suit that screamed money. Patricia dripped with diamonds. They looked up as Emma entered, their expressions shifting from curiosity to barely concealed disappointment. "Mom, Dad, this is Emma." Derek stood, smiling, but Emma noticed he didn't move to pull out her chair. "Emma," Patricia's voice was cool. "Derek has told us so much about you." The way she said it made clear that what he'd told them wasn't impressive. Emma shook both their hands, noting how Patricia's grip was limp, dismissive. "It's wonderful to meet you both. Derek speaks so highly of you. Please, sit." Richard gestured to the chair across from them, positioning Emma to be examined like a specimen. The dinner started innocuously enough. Patricia asked about Emma's work, her background. Emma kept her answers vague, mentioning she worked in tech without elaborating. She saw the assumptions forming in their eyes. "Tech support. How nice," Patricia said, translating Emma's vagueness into something beneath her. "That must be steady work." "It is," Emma agreed, not correcting her. "And you grew up locally?" Richard asked. "Yes, in the suburbs. My mom was a teacher. My dad worked in manufacturing." She watched their noses wrinkle slightly. Working class background, not their kind of people. "Derek mentioned you drive a Honda," Patricia said, making it sound like an accusation. "Those are very practical cars." "I like practical," Emma said simply. "Of course you do." Patricia smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. She turned to Derek. "Darling, didn't you mention you were looking at that investment property downtown?" Derek launched into details about a building he was trying to purchase. Emma noticed how his parents engaged with him, asking informed questions, treating his ambitions seriously. When she tried to contribute an observation about the neighborhood's development patterns, Patricia talked right over her. "Emma, dear, could you ask the waiter for more water? I'm absolutely parched." Emma could have pointed out that the waiter was standing right there, that Patricia could easily signal him herself. Instead, she smiled and caught the waiter's attention. "How accommodating," Richard said, like she was a well-trained pet. As dinner progressed, the condescension grew more pointed. Patricia asked if Emma needed help reading the French menu. Richard suggested she might be more comfortable at a less formal restaurant. Derek said nothing, just smiled uncomfortably, and changed the subject whenever his parents got too pointed. But he never defended her, never corrected their assumptions, never stood up for her at all. The final straw came with dessert. Patricia was describing their country club, the benefits of membership, the quality of people one met there. "Of course, the membership fees are quite substantial," she said, looking directly at Emma. $25,000 annually, plus the initiation fee. "But it's worth it to be around the right sort of people, people who understand quality." "That must be wonderful," Emma said evenly. "It is. Derek will inherit our membership naturally, though I suppose if he marries someone without the means to contribute, it might be a bit awkward at the club functions. People do notice when one partner is clearly different." Derek shifted uncomfortably. "Mom, I'm just being practical, darling. Money matters in marriage. You need someone who can be an equal partner, not a burden." Emma felt something cold settle in her chest, not because of Patricia's cruelty, she'd expected that, but because Derek still wasn't defending her. He was embarrassed, uncomfortable, but he wasn't stopping them. "You're absolutely right, Mrs. Ashford," Emma said quietly. "Money does matter in marriage. Equality matters. I'm glad you understand, dear. Now, Derek mentioned you're living in a rental? That must be difficult. Studio apartment, isn't it?" Emma had a studio apartment. She also had a 3-bedroom house in an exclusive neighborhood, paid off completely. But Derek had only ever been to the studio, her simple living experiment space. "It's cozy," Emma said. "I'm sure it is." Patricia's smile was pure poison now. "Derek, sweetheart, have you really thought this through? I mean, Emma seems like a perfectly nice girl, but marriage is about partnership. You need someone who brings something to the table besides..." "Well, besides what, Patricia?" Emma's voice was still quiet, but something in it made everyone look at her. "I think you know what I mean, dear. You're a lovely person, I'm sure, but you're not exactly Derek's equal, are you? In terms of background, education, prospects. It's not your fault, of course. You simply weren't born into the same advantages." "You're right," Emma said. "I wasn't born into advantages. I built them." She reached into her purse, pulled out her phone and set it on the table. With a few taps, she pulled up her LinkedIn profile. VP of Technology, her company's name in bold. Then her investment portfolio summary. Then the deed to her house. The silence at the table was absolute. "My salary is $37,000 a month, not including stock options and bonuses. I own my home outright. My investment portfolio is worth roughly $2 million. I started as a junior developer making $35,000 a year and built my career through 12-hour days and constant learning." She turned to Derek, whose face had gone pale. "I never told you because I wanted to know who you were when you thought you had the power, when you thought I needed you." Her voice was sad now. "And tonight I found out. You let your parents talk to me like I was worthless. You sat there and said nothing while they insulted me, dismissed me, treated me like a burden you'd be generous to accept." "Emma, I didn't know," Derek started. "That's the point. You didn't know, and it shouldn't have mattered. If I had been a secretary making minimum wage, I still would have deserved respect. Your parents judged me based on what they thought I couldn't offer them, and you let them." She stood, dropped her napkin on the table. "For the record, I was testing you tonight too. And you failed." Patricia had recovered her composure, her face hardening. "Well, I suppose that explains the deception. Quite manipulative, wouldn't you say?" "No more manipulative than treating people differently based on what you think they can do for you," Emma replied. "I pretended to be poor. You all pretended to be kind. At least I was honest about it being an act." She turned to Derek. "I'm sorry, I wanted this to work. But I can't marry someone who won't stand up for me. I can't build a life with someone who measures my worth by my bank account, whether they think it's empty or full." Emma took off her engagement ring and set it on the table. "I hope you find someone who meets your parents' standards. I hope she's everything they think you deserve." and I hope someday you realize that the best things in life are the ones you defend, even when it's uncomfortable. She walked out of the restaurant with her head high, leaving behind 3 stunned people and a ring that had never meant what she'd hoped it would. In her car, Emma finally let herself feel it. Not regret, but disappointment. She'd given Derek 6 months of her life, had hoped he was different, had wanted to believe that. His kindness was real, and not just performance. Her phone buzzed. Derek. She deleted the message without reading it. 6 months later, Emma was leading a major product launch when she saw him. Derek, at a networking event, talking to potential clients. He saw her too, his face going through a complex series of expressions. After the presentation, he approached. Emma, you look great. Thank you. I've been thinking about that night, about what you said. He looked genuinely uncomfortable. You were right. I should have defended you. I was a coward. Yes, you were. I've done a lot of thinking since then, about my parents, about their values, about what I let them teach me. Derek took a breath. I wanted to apologize, and to tell you that you changed how I see things. I'm working on it. Emma studied him. He seemed sincere, seemed genuinely changed. I'm glad. Everyone deserves to grow. Is there any chance? No. Her voice was firm but not unkind. You can't unring that bell, Derek. I saw who you were when you thought I was powerless. That doesn't just go away. I understand. He nodded slowly. For what it's worth, you're incredible. You always were. I just couldn't see past my own prejudices to recognize it. After he left, Emma's colleague found her. Ex-boyfriend, ex-fiancé. Ouch. What happened? Emma smiled. I tested him. He failed. I dodged a bullet. She looked around the room, at the people networking, making connections, building careers. Somewhere out there was someone who would love her for who she was, not what she had or didn't have. Someone who would defend her, who would see her worth without needing a bank statement as proof. Until then, Emma had her work, her success, her self-respect, and that she'd learned was worth more than any ring from a man who couldn't stand up for her when it mattered. Sometimes the kindest thing we can do for ourselves is test the people we love before we commit to them. And sometimes the hardest thing is walking away when they fail that test. But self-respect demands that we love people who love us for who we are, not what we can offer them. And anyone who won't defend us when we're perceived as weak doesn't deserve us when we're strong. If this resonated, like and share it with someone who knows their worth. Subscribe for more stories about self-respect and authentic love. And comment about a time when you tested someone's character and learned who they really were.